The quiet beeping of monitoring stations filled the dark room where Bill worked the night shift. He didn't mind the darkness. It helped him focus on the hundreds of screens showing different sectors of Council space. Most nights were boring, just watching the usual trade ships and diplomatic vessels move between the stars. Tonight was different. Bill rubbed his eyes and looked again at the screen showing Sector 7. Something wasn't right. The numbers didn't match what they should be. The gravitational readings showed tiny changes, like ripples in a pond, but there was nothing there. Empty space shouldn't have ripples. He double-checked his equipment, ran the tests again, and got the same result. His heart started beating faster. In 5 years of watching screens, he had never seen anything like this. The ripples were moving in a clear pattern, too regular to be natural. Bill's hand shook as he pressed the call button for his boss. Commander Reed wasn't going to like being woken up, but protocol said any unusual readings had to be reported. The commander's tired face appeared on his screen a few minutes later. "This better be important," Reed said, his antennae twitching with annoyance. Like most of the senior staff, he was from one of the older council races who looked down on junior species doing monitoring work. "Sir, I'm picking up gravitational anomalies in Sector 7. They match the pattern we were warned about in the briefing about human ships." Bill's voice got quieter at the end. Nobody liked talking about humans. They were supposed to be safely contained in their own system after what happened on Mars. Reed's antennae went completely still. "Send me the data. Now." Bill transmitted his readings and waited. The commander's face turned a pale shade of blue, a sign of fear in his species. More calls were made. More data was checked. Within an hour, the quiet monitoring room was filled with senior officers, all staring at Bill's screen. "It's impossible," one of them said. "Their ships can't be this far out. The containment fleet would have seen them." "Unless they didn't," another officer replied. "Unless they'd been out here all along and we just couldn't see them." The room got very quiet. Everyone knew about human ships. 3 years ago, before the containment, a single human warship had fought 3 Council patrol cruisers. The cruisers had better weapons, better shields, and more advanced technology. But the human ship had done something impossible. It had disappeared from all sensors in the middle of the fight, then reappeared behind the cruisers. The patrol ships were disabled before they could even turn around. When help arrived, the human ship was gone. Now the same kind of ship was here, in the middle of Council space, over 100 light-years from Earth. The containment fleet that was supposed to keep humans in their solar system looked useless now. More data came in from other monitoring stations. The gravitational ripples were showing up in their readings too. The ship was moving through space as if the Council's best detection systems didn't exist. It passed close to a major trade route, near enough to see the massive cargo ships with normal eyes. But none of the merchant crews noticed anything unusual. Commander Reed made his decision. "Send the alert to Central Command. All stations on high alert. And get me the files on human stealth technology. Everything we have." Bill watched as the quiet night shift turned into chaos. Officers ran between stations, argued over readings, and tried to predict where the human ship was going. But the ripples in space kept moving, following no pattern anyone could understand. An older officer who had fought in the Mars incident stood in the corner, watching the screens with a strange look on his face. "You know what's really scary?" he said to no one in particular. "This isn't new technology. That ship isn't using anything we haven't seen before. Which means they could do this 3 years ago, during the containment. They just chose not to." The room got quiet again as everyone thought about what that meant. If humans could slip past the containment fleet any time they wanted, why had they played along with being trapped in their solar system? What had they been doing all this time? And why were they showing themselves now? Bill looked back at his screen, at the mysterious ripples moving through space, and felt a chill run down his spine. He had a feeling that spotting this ship wasn't an accident. The humans wanted to be seen. This was just the beginning. News of the human warship spread through the council station like wildfire. In the grand meeting chamber, representatives from 30 different species argued about what to do. The chamber's golden walls, usually a symbol of unity, now felt like a cage as fears and accusations flew back and forth. Ambassador Jack, one of the few humans allowed to stay after the containment, sat quietly in his small office watching the chaos unfold on his screen. His presence on the station was supposed to be a sign of cooperation between Earth and the Council. Now guards stood outside his door, though everyone pretended they were there for his protection. The Council's High Speaker, an ancient being named Root whose species looked like a walking tree, called for order. "We must not panic," Root said, his leaves trembling slightly. "One ship is not an invasion." "One ship that we can see," Ambassador Green from the Trade World shot back. His metallic skin reflected the chamber's lights as he gestured angrily. "Who knows how many more are out there? The humans have broken containment. We must respond with force." Jack smiled to himself. They still didn't understand. His smile faded as he remembered his orders. Stay quiet, play dumb, and watch. Sometimes being Earth's only official representative was a lonely job. In the station's military command center, things weren't much better. General Stone of the Council Defense Force stared at the latest reports. The human ship had been spotted near 3 more sectors, each time just long enough to be detected before vanishing again. It was like it was playing with them. "Sir," his aide reported, "the containment fleet around Sol reports no unusual activity. Earth's ships are all accounted for." "All the ships we can detect, you mean?" Stone growled. He had opposed the containment strategy from the start. Humans were too clever to be trapped so easily. Now his worst fears were coming true. A junior officer burst into the room. "General, we've lost contact with Deep Space Relay 7. The command center erupted into action. Deep Space Relay 7 was a vital communication hub connecting several council sectors. Without it, dozens of colonies would be cut off from the network. The timing couldn't be a coincidence. "Get me visual contact with the relay," Stone ordered. The main screen lit up with an image that made everyone stop and stare. The relay wasn't destroyed. It was perfectly intact, but different. Someone had painted a simple smiley face on its main communication dish. "They're mocking us," someone whispered. Stone wasn't so sure. The modification was too perfect. The relay's sensitive equipment should have been damaged by any attempt to paint it. This was a message, but not mockery. The humans were showing what they could do without causing real harm. Back in the council chamber, the argument had turned to the Mars incident. "We should have destroyed their whole system when we had the chance," Ambassador Green was saying. "After what they did to our forces on Mars." "After what we did to their colony, you mean?" interrupted a quiet voice. Everyone turned to look at Representative Hall from the Science Council. She was old enough to remember what really happened. "We broke our own laws," she continued. "We attacked their Mars base because we were afraid of how fast they were advancing. They defended themselves. That's all. And now we're afraid again, but this time they're already beyond our ability to contain." The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. The human ship's appearance wasn't just a security breach. It was proof that everything they thought they knew about Earth's capabilities was wrong. In his office, Jack received a coded message from Earth. He read it twice, then deleted it. Walking to his window, he looked out at the vast space station that represented the combined might of 30 species. Soon, they would understand that the containment had never been about keeping humanity in. It had been about keeping threats out while Earth prepared to protect them all. But first, they needed to understand just how much they had underestimated humanity. The ship's appearance was just the first step in a plan years in the making. Looking at his watch, Jack counted down. Right on schedule, alarms began blaring throughout the station. He smiled again. The real show was about to begin. The Council's finest warships gathered near the Centauri border, their hulls gleaming under distant stars. 5 heavy cruisers, each the size of a small city, formed a search pattern that had caught smugglers and pirates for centuries. At their center, the command ship Star Seeker carried Admiral Wilson, the most famous human defector in Council space. Wilson stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display with cold eyes. 10 years ago, he had left Earth claiming he couldn't support his homeworld's aggressive policies. The Council had welcomed him, using his knowledge to design the containment fleet that was supposed to keep humanity boxed in their solar system. "Begin the search pattern," he ordered. "The human ship must be found." His voice carried the authority of someone who had fought alongside these aliens for years. Nobody questioned his loyalty anymore, except himself. The fleet moved forward, their sensors sweeping space with technology far beyond what Earth was supposed to have. Wilson had helped design these sensors himself, based on what he claimed was the limit of human detection abilities. Now he watched as they failed to find anything. On the bridge of the human ship Ghost, Captain Drake watched the Council fleet with amusement. His ship sat perfectly still, hidden in plain sight as the alien vessels passed within kilometers of his position. The crew maintained perfect silence, though a few shared quiet smiles. "Sir," his sensor officer whispered, "Admiral Wilson's ship is leading the search pattern exactly as planned." Drake nodded. Wilson wasn't really a defector. He was part of the longest-running deception in human history. Everything he had told the Council about Earth's capabilities had been carefully crafted lies, designed to keep them overconfident and blind to humanity's true progress. Back on the Star Seeker, Wilson fought to keep his face neutral as another search pattern failed. The Council officers were getting frustrated. Their best technology, their most advanced chips, all useless against whatever stealth system the humans were using. "Admiral," his second-in-command said, "perhaps we should try your alternative search pattern." Wilson pretended to consider it. The alternative pattern would lead the fleet even further from the human ship's actual position. "Yes," he said slowly. "Begin the beta search pattern. The humans won't expect us to look there." The Ghost's crew watched as the Council fleet turned away. Drake checked his mission clock. Everything was proceeding exactly on schedule. The Council needed to understand just how completely they had been outmaneuvered before the next phase could begin. "Prepare for Phase 2, Drake ordered. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, powering up systems that the Council didn't even know could exist. What looked like empty panels on the bridge lit up with controls that would have shocked any alien observer. On the Star Seeker, Wilson's communications officer suddenly shouted, "Admiral, we're picking up transmissions from everywhere." The tactical display erupted with new signals, hundreds of them, appearing all around the fleet, each with the distinctive signature of a human stealth ship. The Council officers stared in horror as they realized the truth. They weren't hunting one ship. They were surrounded by an entire fleet that had been there all along. Wilson allowed himself a small smile. After 10 years, he could finally stop pretending. "All ships, hold position," he ordered, his voice different now, stronger, more confident. The Council officers turned to look at him, realization dawning in their eyes. On the Ghost, Drake opened a channel to the Star Seeker. "Hello, old friend," he said to Wilson. "I believe it's time to show them what we can really do." Wilson straightened his uniform, his real uniform, hidden under the Council Admiral's clothes for 10 years. "Yes," he replied, "I believe it is." The Council fleet hung motionless in space as hidden human ships appeared all around them, their stealth systems powering down to reveal vessels far more advanced than anything Earth was supposed to have. 10 years of pretending to be contained, 10 years of letting the Council think they were in control, had just ended. And in the darkness between the stars, more human ships were dropping their cover, ready to protect the galaxy from threats the Council had never even imagined. The real mission was about to begin. Deep in the Council archives, where ancient records filled endless rows of data crystals, historian Mark worked late into the night. News of the human fleet's appearance had sent him searching through files that hadn't been opened in years. Something about the official story of the Mars incident had never made sense to him. The archive room hummed with power as he accessed another set of records. Most historians avoided these old military files. They were considered too sensitive, too painful to study. But Mark had always asked uncomfortable questions. Now, as he pieced together fragments of data, his hands started to shake. "This changes everything," he whispered to the empty room. The records showed a very different version of humanity's containment than what everyone believed. Ships disappearing from sensors only to reappear days later in different sectors. Mysterious repairs to damaged Council facilities. Unexplained communications blackouts that never seemed to cause any real harm. The humans hadn't been contained at all. They had been everywhere, watching, helping from the shadows, and letting the Council think they were in control. Above the archive room, the Council's emergency session had turned into chaos. The appearance of hundreds of advanced human ships had shattered their confidence. Representatives argued, accused each other of hiding information, and demanded answers that nobody had. "How long?" Ambassador Green shouted, his metallic skin now a dull gray from stress. "How long have they been out here, watching us, infiltrating our space?" Before anyone could answer, the chamber's main screen activated by itself. The image showed a small Earth colony on Mars, from the time before the containment. Council ships appeared above it, weapons charging. The recording was from the Mars incident, but this wasn't the official version everyone knew. Mark stepped into the chamber, holding an ancient data crystal. "You all need to see this," he said. "The real story of why Earth agreed to be contained." The recording continued. As Council ships prepared to fire on the colony, strange energy readings appeared around Mars. Hidden defense systems, far more advanced than anything Earth was supposed to have, activated. The Council ships found themselves surrounded by human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. But the humans didn't fire. Instead, they sent a message. "We could stop you. We could fight back. But that's not why we're here." Mark's voice filled the silence. Earth knew about the attack before it happened. They had defense systems ready, technology that we never knew they had. But instead of fighting, they chose to accept containment. They wanted us to think we had won. The chamber erupted with questions. Mark held up the data crystal. "There's more. Reports of unknown ships protecting Council colonies from space debris. Mysterious repairs to damaged stations. Rescue missions that seemed impossibly lucky. The humans weren't just watching us. They were protecting us." On the main screen, Admiral Wilson's face appeared. He had removed his Council uniform, revealing the dark blue of Earth's Space Force. "The historian speaks the truth," he said. "Earth knew that the Council feared our rapid advancement. We could have fought back, but that would have led to a war nobody wanted. Instead, we chose a different path." The screen split to show dozens of human ships, now visible around Council worlds and stations, ships that had been there for years, hidden guardians keeping watch over a galaxy that didn't know it needed protection. "The containment wasn't a prison," Wilson continued. "It was a convenient fiction. It let us build up our forces, develop our technology, and prepare for threats that the Council hadn't even detected yet. Threats that are coming sooner than you think." Mark activated another crystal, showing long-range scans from human ships, strange signals from the galaxy's edge, unusual energy readings that matched no known species, movement patterns that suggested intelligent direction. "Earth saw them coming years ago," Mark said. "That's why they let themselves be contained. They needed time to prepare, not just to defend humanity, but to protect everyone." The Council's fear of Earth's advancement almost started a war. Instead, it created the greatest defense network the galaxy has ever seen. In orbit above them, more human ships dropped their stealth fields. Not invaders or conquerors, but guardians who had chosen to protect rather than destroy. The real question now was whether the Council could accept the truth that their greatest fear had been their greatest protector all along. The Ghost appeared in the heart of the Council's defense network, right between their most powerful weapon platforms. There was no shimmer, no distortion. One moment empty space, The next, a sleek warship larger than anything Earth was supposed to possess. The defense platforms, designed to destroy any intruder, didn't fire. They couldn't. Their targeting systems had been quietly modified years ago. Captain Drake stood on his bridge, looking at the massive council station through windows that seemed to be made of normal glass, but could withstand the direct hit of a nuclear weapon. His crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the hundreds of council ships that were now turning to face them. "Open a channel to all frequencies," Drake ordered. It's time they understood. The Ghost's communication officer nodded. Unlike the bare metal walls of council ships, the human bridge was warm and comfortable, with plants growing in corners and the soft sound of running water in the background. They had learned long ago that keeping crews happy made them more effective. "This is Captain Thomas Drake of the Earth ship Ghost." His voice echoed through every speaker in council space. "We need to talk about ending this charade." On the council station, the emergency command center fell silent. General Stone stared at his tactical display, watching as more human ships appeared. They weren't dropping their stealth fields. They were simply allowing their presence to be noticed, like a person slowly becoming aware of furniture in a room they'd walked through 100 times. "Impossible," Stone whispered. The tactical display showed human vessels everywhere, near critical defense installations, besides major trade routes, protecting civilian populations. The newest readings suggested they had been in those positions for years. The Ghost moved forward, its hull seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship's design was unlike anything in council records: smooth curves instead of sharp angles, no visible weapons even though their scan suggested enough firepower to level a city. "We've watched you struggle with problems you weren't ready to face," Drake continued. "We've stopped 17 major asteroid strikes on your colonies, prevented 3 potential reactor meltdowns, redirected solar flares that would have wiped out whole populations, and now something worse is coming." In the council chamber, representatives watched in stunned silence as evidence appeared on their screens. Records of disasters that had mysteriously solved themselves, grainy images of human ships working in secret to protect council worlds. Proof that humanity had been their silent guardians all along. The Ghost's main screen lit up with a new face, the council's high speaker root. His wooden features showed a mix of fear and fascination. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why help us in secret? Why maintain the lie of containment?" Drake smiled. It was the first time any council member had asked the right question. "Because you weren't ready for the truth. Your fear of our advancement almost led to war. We chose a different path. We became your protectors until you were ready to understand." The ship's external cameras showed council vessels moving closer, not to attack but to study. Their crews could finally see the true face of human technology. Panels that looked like solid metal but could become transparent at will. Engines that bent space without radiation or waste. Weapons that could disable without destroying. The containment was never meant to last forever, Drake explained. It was meant to last until you were ready. Until the greater threat became clear enough that you would listen. That time is now. He nodded to his science officer, who transmitted new data to the council. Long-range scans showing something massive moving at the edge of known space. Energy readings that defied analysis. Patterns that suggested an intelligence older than any known civilization. "We've been preparing for this," Drake said. "Everything. The containment, the hidden ships, the secret protection. It was all to get ready for what's coming. Earth couldn't face it alone. The Council couldn't face it alone. But together, with human technology and Council resources, we have a chance." The Ghost's engines hummed quietly as Drake waited for a response. In the council chamber, representatives looked at each other with new understanding. Their greatest fear had become their greatest hope. The question wasn't whether to trust humanity anymore. The question was whether they could learn to work together before it was too late. The council's grand meeting hall had never felt so crowded. Representatives from every species sat around the massive circular table, their eyes fixed on the holographic display in the center. Captain Drake stood beside it, his simple black uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes of the council members. "These are the threats we've identified," Drake said, pointing to red markers scattered across the galaxy map. Temporal anomalies that could tear space apart. Ancient automated weapons platforms from dead civilizations, still following their last orders. And something worse, an intelligence that devours entire star systems. The display zoomed in on the galaxy's edge, showing massive energy readings that made several council members gasp. The human sensors had captured what council technology couldn't even detect. A shadow moving between the stars, leaving empty space in its wake. Ambassador Green, who had once called for Earth's destruction, leaned forward. "How long have you known about these threats?" "We detected the first signs 15 years ago," Drake replied. "That's when we realized we needed to protect more than just Earth. The containment plan was created to give us time to prepare, not just ourselves, but you as well." He gestured, and the display changed to show council worlds. Hidden human satellites appeared around them, quietly strengthening their defenses, stealth ships positioned to intercept threats. Years of secret preparations to protect people who would try to contain them. "We could have left," Drake continued, "could have hidden in our solar system and let you face these threats alone. But that's not who we are. Earth learned long ago that survival depends on protecting each other." High Speaker Root's leaves rustled thoughtfully. "You speak of protection, but your ships could have conquered us at any time. Why should we trust you now?" Drake smiled and pressed a button on his wrist. The lights in the chamber dimmed, then brightened again. In that moment, hidden panels throughout the room had opened, revealing technology that had been built into the council station decades ago. "Because we've had control of your stations, your defenses, your whole civilization for years," Drake said quietly. "We could have taken over whenever we wanted. Instead, we chose to protect, to wait, to hope you would understand when the time came." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Their most secure facility had been designed with human technology from the start. They had been living under Earth's protection without ever knowing it. "The real question," Drake continued, "is whether you can move past your fear of us. These threats won't wait. We need to work together, openly this time." Mark, the historian, stepped forward from his corner of the room. "Captain Drake is right. I found records of other civilizations that faced similar threats. The ones that survived were those that learned to cooperate. The ones that let fear drive them apart. There's nothing left of them but ruins." The display changed again, showing the combined strength of human and council forces. Earth's advanced technology merged with council resources. Stealth ships working alongside massive council cruisers. A defense network that could protect the whole galaxy if they worked together. "We're not asking you to trust us blindly," Drake said. "We're asking you to look at the evidence. Years of secret protection, countless lives saved. Technology shared quietly to help you advance. We could have been conquerors. We chose to be guardians instead." High Speaker Root stood, his wooden form creaking slightly. "And what do you want in return for this protection?" "Partnership," Drake replied simply. "Equal standing in the council. No more lies, no more hiding. A united front against what's coming. We'll share our technology openly, help you understand it. In return, we need your resources, your knowledge of the galaxy, your cooperation." The chamber fell silent as the council members looked at each other. Years of fear and suspicion fought against the evidence before them. Humanity had proved itself not through conquest, but through protection. Not through destruction, but through patience. Ambassador Green spoke first, his metallic skin shining with its old confidence. "I move that we accept Earth's offer, not as a contained race, but as full partners in the council." One by one, other representatives stood in agreement. The vote wasn't just about accepting human help. It was about admitting that their fears had been wrong. that sometimes the thing you fear most turns out to be the protector you need. 1 month after the vote, the council station buzzed with activity. Human engineers worked openly alongside council technicians, upgrading systems that they had secretly maintained for years. The halls that once held whispered fears about humanity now echoed with excited conversations about new possibilities. Admiral Wilson, now wearing his true uniform, stood at a window watching ships move through space. Council vessels trained alongside human craft, learning the capabilities they had feared for so long. The sight of a council heavy cruiser successfully activating its new stealth system made him smile. "Quite a change, isn't it?" Captain Drake asked, joining him at the window. "A month ago, they would have tried to shoot that ship down for having stealth technology." Wilson nodded. 10 years of pretending to be their servant, watching them make the same mistakes we once made. Sometimes I wanted to tell them everything, but they weren't ready until now. In the station's main control room, human technicians showed their council counterparts how to operate the advanced systems that had been hidden in their own station. The council operators learned quickly, their fear of human technology replaced by fascination. "The defensive grid extends through these sectors," a human engineer explained, pointing to a massive display. Green dots showed hundreds of human ships, now visible to council sensors. "We've been maintaining it for years. With your help, we can make it even stronger." Mark sat in his archive room, now filled with both council and human records. The true history of their relationship was being written, not as a story of containment and fear, but as one of protection and patience. Young council members came to him daily, eager to learn how humans had guided their development from the shadows. The Mars incident wasn't an ending, he told a group of students. It was a beginning. The moment when humanity chose protection over retaliation. When we learned that true strength comes from defending others, not conquering them. In the council chamber, now modified with visible human technology, Ambassador Green led a briefing about the approaching threat. The massive entity at the galaxy's edge had destroyed 3 uninhabited systems in the past month. But now, for the first time, it faced a united defense. Combined human and council sensors track its every move, Green explained, his metallic skin gleaming with pride. "Our ships train together daily. The defense network grows stronger each hour. We face this threat not as separate species, but as one civilization." Deep in the station's engineering section, human and council scientists worked on new technologies that merged their different approaches. Council engineers marveled at the elegant simplicity of human designs, while human scientists learned from the council's millennia of experience. "Your containment was the galaxy's longest-running practical joke," a council engineer told his human counterpart as they modified a power core. "All those years, letting us think we had trapped you, while you were actually protecting us." The human engineer laughed. "Sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them think they're in control. You needed time to overcome your fear of us. We needed time to build our defenses. Everyone got what they needed." On the Ghost's bridge, Drake reviewed reports from across council space. Human ships that had hidden for years now worked openly with council vessels, sharing their knowledge and experience. The combined fleet grew stronger each day, preparing for the battle that would determine the galaxy's future. "Message from Earth Command," his communications officer reported. "The Council's fear level has dropped below critical threshold. We can begin sharing the next phase of technology." Drake smiled. Humanity's greatest weapons had never been their stealth ships or advanced technology. Their true strength lay in patience, in the willingness to protect even those who feared them, in the understanding that true power meant using strength to defend rather than dominate. In the station's observation dome, Wilson and Root stood together, watching ships of both civilizations patrol together. The wooden high speaker turned to the human admiral, his leaves gently swaying. "You could have conquered us at any time," Root said. "Instead, you chose to be our guardians, to protect us from ourselves until we were ready for the truth. That is a debt we can never repay." Wilson shook his head. "There is no debt between friends," he replied. "We face the future together now, as equals, as allies, as one united force against whatever darkness lies ahead." Above them, human and council ships moved in perfect formation, their combined strength a warning to any threat that would harm their shared civilization. The time of secrets and containment was over. The age of unity had begun.